the age of Aries, having fire as its main element. It's interesting how it influenced mankind, even as we are now entering the age of Aquarius. But if today's pop culture had its own jam, its own playlist or mixtape, if the magnitude of the year 2020 and certainly the years to follow it could be measured in messiness, it would be the age of Aries. I felt like talking about this subject after I came across the story of Cazzie David, who is the daughter of Larry David, who had the show that I was a huge fan of called Curb Your Enthusiasm. So Cazzie is his grown-up daughter, and she recently had a breakup from Pete Davidson, and after she broke up with Pete Davidson, he started dating Ariana Grande. He was a SNL Saturday Night Live cast member. So dating Ariana Grande and then proposing and getting engaged put him on the map. Meanwhile, behind the scenes was Cazzie, who became his ex and was basically rocked to the core by the fact that not long after they broke up, Pete Davidson started dating Ariana, and she also wrote a book, and that's what this video is about today. One of the things it's about today is the fact that Cazzie wrote this book. She doesn't name either one of them, and she's basically spilling the tea. I read a little bit of it, and I thought, this is so interesting. It's very nuanced, and it begs a larger question for me, and something I've been thinking about since I was a little kid, ever since I went to the drive-in with my parents, and we went to see a movie called Mommy Dearest. It was a movie based on a book by Christina Crawford, who was an adoptive child, one of 4 adoptive children by Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was a huge movie star back then. She is an Aries, and apparently wasn't such a good mother. The movie, I remember being struck as a kid by the end of the movie. So I'll paint the scene for you. By the end of the movie, Christina, who had always had a strained relationship with her mother, she and her brother Christopher were left out of Joan Crawford's will. And so they're sitting with the administrator after their mother has passed, awaiting to find out what's in their mother's will. Well, Joan Crawford didn't leave them anything. All she said was, and let me say that this is just my philosophical point of view today and my broad generalization on this topic. So I'm paraphrasing. Joan Crawford leaves them out of the will, and the only thing she says to them is, for reasons both known to them. And Christopher is sitting there saying, what reasons? What reasons does she have for leaving us out of the will? Christopher says, she always gets the last word, talking about Joan Crawford, his mother. And then the very last line in the movie is uttered by Christina Crawford, who says, does she? Meaning, does she get the last word? And it was profound because Joan Crawford didn't get the last word after she died, because Christina Crawford wrote that scandalous book called Mommy Dearest. It let the whole world know that Joan Crawford was not the best mother, that what was painted to the public about her adopting all these children, at least Christina and Christopher, was not the truth, according to Christina Crawford, because she wrote that memoir. Mommy Dearest later made into a movie, and then that's how I found myself with my parents as a little kid watching Mommy Dearest at the drive-in. And I think back then people had grace for the person that they held the contempt for, that they were going to write the book about. And I mean, had grace in that they waited until the person died before they spilled their tea. That doesn't happen anymore. People don't wait till somebody's dead to tell the truth about them or their experiences or their rendition of the truth about a particular person. And, you know, the recent tell-alls that I can think about, the very recent one is Mariah Carey's. You know, the main person that she speaks about in that book, well, there's a few people she speaks about, but the one that's known to other people is Tommy Mottola. Martha Stewart's daughter wrote a book. I don't think it got as much attention because Martha basically owned the things that her daughter was saying in the book. So that was a really good strategy. She didn't feel shamed by them. She just basically said, yeah, that was me. And what is so notorious right now is all these people writing books about the president. We have Michael Cohen, he wrote Disloyal. And then we have the president's niece, Mary, who wrote a book detailing what it was like to grow up in that family. And she was around the president, her uncle. And I read that book and I was just flabbergasted. It's astounding, the things that she recounted in that book and what, you know, that family is really like. They're waiting barely 15 minutes to tell their truth nowadays. And not waiting for somebody to die, like I said. And so I'm gonna read from this article of E!News's, and it's from November 17th, 2020. The headline is, "You have to check out everything Cazzie David spilled about Pete Davidson and Ariana Grande's romance. While breakups are universal, none are quite like one Cazzie David experienced in 2018. Just days after the comedian and actress ended her 2-year relationship with Pete Davidson, her ex-boyfriend instantly became half of one of the biggest celebrity couplings in recent history. Within a 6-month span, the Saturday Night Live star and superstar Ariana Grande began dating, got matching tattoos, gushed about their one-of-a-kind soul-shifting love, and then broke up. And everybody remembers that. But while they were publicly living out their love story, Cazzie David was privately coping with her heartbreak until now. So that's why, you know, I was wondering, you know, is when you write a book, is it a form of catharsis? Is it revenge? Is it antagonistic? Is it something that you were allowed to do because you're busy living this thing called life, and these things have validity because they happen to you and because you're engaging with another person? You're in a relationship with another person. Shouldn't you be allowed to tell what goes on in it, especially if you were spurned? That's the question I've been asking myself ever since I watched to the end Mommy Dearest at the drive-in when I was a kid. So I'm going to continue reading. Though neither Davidson nor Grande are named in the book, it's pretty clear which whirlwind and much publicized romance Cazzie David, the daughter of Curb Your Enthusiasm's Larry David, is writing about in No One Asked for This. I love the title, by the way. Her new collection of essays that was released on November 17th, and how all of the breathless reports made her feel. My panic and shame were so far past overdrive, I couldn't articulate what it was I was even feeling, she wrote. The fact that people were talking about me at all, let alone talking about me being dumped on such a large scale, was a nightmare my psyche was not equipped to handle. Now, 2 years after it all went down, the 26-year-old is opening up for the first time about her relationship with Davidson and what it was really like watching her ex move on with one of the biggest stars in the world. So I'm going to read some stuff from the book, because who hasn't had a breakup and can't relate to this stuff, right? So basically it was saying that Cazzie had planned to break up with Pete Davidson first. But he beat her to it because he met Ariana. And so, can you imagine, you're planning to break up with some fool that you don't want to be with anymore, and he beats you to it. And then he one-ups you because he's dating somebody that's very famous now. And you're not so famous. I can't really sympathize with Cassie's anguish over this because she fully admits that she was going to break up with him first, but she didn't get the chance to. He did it. So after that, then it's just hubris. It's ego. That's upsetting to her because he upgraded, as they say. So Cazzie describes it as an exceptionally hard task. She wrote, "It made her sick to her stomach to think about hurting someone, let alone someone you love, let alone someone who was codependent. The first time we met, it was immediate, grotesque, middle school crush infatuation. And that feeling never subsided." While they were kindred spirits, Cazzie explained Pete's mental health struggles had taken a toll on her, so then he did her a favor, basically. But Pete made their break a permanent one. He sure did. He told me he was now the happiest he had ever been, and he wanted to continue our time apart. So that's the switcheroo, because they're going back and forth in this toxic relationship. He meets an object of his new obsession and somewhere else to place his toxicity, and so he doesn't need to keep going back and forth with this girl. So she says the first official photo Pete and Ariana posted of each other on social media to confirm their romance was the pair sporting Hogwarts robes from a visit to Harry Potter World, a stereotypically millennial date destination that also served as a setting for Cazzie's first outing with the SNL star. There we bought the same matching sweatshirts they wore in the photo, except mine was Ravenclaw and hers was Slytherin, which is too iconic to make a joke about, she revealed. So she's basically talking about the same memories he was making with Ariana, he had already made with Cazzie. Not uncommon. So she goes on, but my favorite part and the main reason for my making this video is that Cazzie has grown from this. And that's what makes going through relationships and breakups worthwhile, is the growth that comes from it. Because at the end, where Cazzie and Pete stand now, while she admitted to being blindsided by how their relationship ended and felt humiliated by how quickly he moved on, one just has to look to Cassie's message to Pete in her acknowledgments to see that she's grateful for her ex. She says, "Pete, I love you. Thank you for being encouraging when you did not have to be. Your bravery inspires me, and your friendship means the world to me." So there's growth. So she's spilling Ariana and Pete Davidson tea and her own. She's writing this tell-all while everybody's still alive. But she also can thank them, and they're alive to receive it. Joan Crawford must be rolling in her grave because nobody knew who she really was until her daughter Christina Crawford told the world, because she was pissed off that she got left out of that will. And she wanted to make sure her mother didn't get the last word. And she didn't. So I don't know if it's best to wait until somebody dies to write a tell-all, or to do it while they're still alive and can say I'm sorry or own it, which allows you to heal. But one thing I do know is that it's probably a good idea to just be good to people. And if that at any moment in time as you're walking through life just wasn't possible, to circle back and say you're sorry, so that they don't write about you if you become famous, basically. Or maybe they will anyway. Please like and subscribe. Thanks, bye.